So far, we have discussed most of the data types that are available in Python. We have discussed about simple data types like numerical data types as well as strings. We also have discussed about three compound data type, lists, sets, and tuples. Today, we will be starting our discussion on the final type of compound data type and mostly the most important compound data type in Python called dictionary. Just to give you a recap of lists, sets, and tuples, as we have seen, if you want to declare a list, it should be enclosed in between a third bracket. If you want to declare a set, it should be enclosed, the items in the sets should be enclosed in between a second bracket. And for tuple, the items should be enclosed in between a first bracket. Lists were mutable as well as sets. The tuples are immutable. That is, once you declare a tuple, you cannot change the items. For tuples, duplicates are actually allowed. For sets, they are not allowed, but for lists, again, they are allowed. For lists and tuples, there is a notion of ordering. That is, the individual items can be ordered in a way, but there is no such notion for sets. That is, all the items. There is no. There is no notion of ordering. That is, we will be accessing them just for checking, mostly for checking whether an item is present or absent or not. Okay. As it says in lists, items can be replaced, but for sets and tuples, they cannot be replaced. And for lists and set, an existing item can be removed, but for tuple, we cannot remove an existing item from a tuple. List should be applied when the collection of data, there is a notion or there is a need of ordering, and the collection will be changing over time. In that case, we will be using lists. For set, we should be using set when there is no as such ordering of the data in this collection, and the only operation or mostly the operation that will be operating on this data, this collection of data, is lookup or to search, or precisely saying to check the existence of an item in a collection. In that case, we should be using set. For tuple, the collection on which we should be using tuple is when we want the ordering and the collection will not be changing. In those cases, we should be using tuple. Now let's consider one scenario. Let's say we want to store the student information. By student information, I am specifying names, roles, and their marks in certain subject. So from the knowledge that we have already gained, we can use the lists to do this, right? In that case, we need to have a separate names, roles, and marks. And there will be a one-to-one correspondence between them. That is, the 0th index of names will be containing the name, and the 0th index of the roles will be containing the corresponding roll number. So Amit, the corresponding roll number will be 21RS049. The corresponding marks will be again in the marks 0th location, and so on. Okay. The bottom line is we need to have separate list for each of the information, and each list, as you can see, each list should be having the same length as there is a one-to-one correspondence, and each index will be referring to the individual information, such as if I specify the index as 2, it will be specifying the names 2 as Manish, roles 2 as Manish, the roll number of Manish, and marks 2 as the marks of Manish obtained by Manish in certain subject. Now let's consider that we want to give Manish a grace of 5 marks. In that case, what we need to do, of course, from our knowledge, we know that we need to first find out the location in which Manish is present using the index function. This names.index name, if the name is Manish, I will be having the value 2, and marks 2 will be 79, and we can actually increment it by using this increment operator. But there are certain limitation, or there are certain issue with this. So, for example, if there are, say, marks of multiple subjects, so in that case, we might have to change multiple lists based on the criteria or based on the update that we are actually doing on the list or doing on this student information. And another thing is, this index is always an integer, right? So this index function will be always returning an integer value 0, 1, 2, and from the index value, say I, we don't know what I is actually storing. What we know is the only value integer I, say 2. And if we want to check the name of that 2, we need to apply this again names in third bracket 2. Then only we will be able to access the name stored in the 2th index of this names list. So bottom line is, it will be very much hard to actually manage if there are multiple update of information in this kind of a scenario. And the most important thing is, if we want to search, as we have discussed, the search in lists will be linear search. And by linear search, as you already have understood, all the items will be searched one after the other. So if there are, say, 1 million information or 1 million student information stored here, the entire list will be searched. Say this names is containing, say, 1000 names, and the name that we are searching is not at all present, then the searching name will be first compared with the 0th location, then the first location, then the second location, then the third location, and so on until the last index. But we already know that using the membership operator in, we can kind of avoid this kind of a scenario. Like using the in operator, we can actually understand whether the information is actually present in the list or not, right? But again, if, say, the item is present in the 900 index, in that case, if we apply this index operation, it will be actually checking individually. That is, it will be a linear search. So, and also there is a possibility of not knowing the data in details, and it's not possible. I mean, consider a list like this containing, say, 1000 names. And as you may know, there can be multiple students having the same name. It is absolutely possible. So in that case, if we search with Manish, say there are multiple occurrence of Manish in this list, this will be only returning the first occurrence of Manish. And what if we are not bothered about the first occurrence? Maybe we are bothered about the third occurrence of Manish. In that case, it will be complicated. As I have said, it will be a messy scenario. The problem with this scenario is basically the index. Here in the list, all the index are integers, right? We cannot have the corresponding name. We cannot use the corresponding name as the index. We cannot use this, but instead what we have to do is, first of all, we need to find out the index in which Priyanka is present using the index operator, index function. Then only we can access the corresponding marks. And yeah, so using the index function, we first need to get that index, and then we can actually retrieve the data. And as I said, linear search will be the most important problem if the number of items is quite a lot. So this is also true for strings as well. Like if a string is containing a large set of text, then if we want to search, it will be similarly messy. Why? Because searching in strings are also based on linear search. So let's test it out. So let's say we have a string containing this. Print it out. So S, the string, is containing this text, basically 2 paragraphs. Python is an interpreted high-level language, so I have just taken this text from the Wikipedia article on Python. So as you can see, the string is quite large. Not as large as a practical an entire Wikipedia article, but it is quite large as compared to all the strings that we have discussed so far or handled so far. Now let's say we want to search for the existence of, say, Python in this string. That is, we want to check how many times Python is present in this string. So what we can do, I hope you can remember that there is a function called count. There, if we provide the name of the item that we want to search, it will be returning the times, the number of times it is present. So if I give this, it will be giving the output 4. As you can see, if I check Python once, Python twice, this is the third Python and this is the fourth Python. These 4 Pythons are present in this string. The same thing we can also do using a list. How can we do that? First of all, we need to make a list from this string S. How can we do that? Using the list list function, which is the constructor. Only this. Can someone say what will be the output of L? What will be the output? S is containing this string. If I apply this, what will be the output here?
Sir, all the characters of string
Very
S will
nice.
be
Correct. Absolutely correct. But this is not actually what we are intending to do. So what we need to do is we need to split it up, because we want to check the word, how many times the word Python is present. Here there is no notion of word as such, because every item is basically a character, right? So to split this up, or to make a list out of this whole string where the items will be individual words, we need to apply this split function. Now if I do this, it will be, as you can see, there will be, the items in this list will be the individual words. Now if I apply, again, as you can remember, a count function can also be applied on a list, right? Now if I do this, say, what will be the output? So as you can see, the list, the string is containing this Python, Python, here Python, here Python. That's why s.count Python will be was returning 4. But if I do this and then if I do this, what will be the output?
So 3.
Very nice. 3. Why? Because occurrence, or I guess the second occurrence, is not actually Python, it's Pythons. If I look at the corresponding list, as you can see, the item is Pythons. As we are splitting up on the basis of space, as by default considered, if I do this, it will be returning 3. So basically it will be returning, it will be considering the occurrence this, this and this. It will not be considering the occurrence of this Pythons. Earlier, when the string comparison were applied or string count was applied, in that scenario, it is basically considering this whole text at a time. and it is taking, I mean, it is considering this set of strings, this set of strings. It is not actually splitted up, right? The strings is something that is containing some characters, some spaces, some integers, and so on. So that's why it is actually returning 3. Now let's consider a more complicated scenario. Let's say we have the entire article on Richard Feynman and it is stored in a file, right? So what if I want to check the number of occurrence present in this Richard Feynman's Wikipedia article? So write a program to find how many times the term, say, Manhattan occurs in this document. So just to show you, I have already stored the article, the entire text in this file. This is basically extracted from this Wikipedia article on Richard Feynman. So as you can see, it is an entire text. It is quite large. It is containing 151 lines. Okay. Now, what if I have to write a program to see how many times the word or the term Manhattan occurs in this document. Now, of course, what we can do is we can consider the entire text to make one string like this. What we need to do is we need to basically do s equals to, and we can put the entire thing here. So as you can see, the entire text has been given here. So, but as you can see, this is a messy programming scenario again. I am providing a parameter, I'm actually specifying a value to a string here as s, which is containing a very large text. This is not actually desirable. So how can we actually do this? So we will be discussing. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So we could go into the text file actually, and then we can search for.
Absolutely. We can actually search for, say, Richard, the number of occurrence of Richard in this file. Of course, we can do that. But as you can understand, for this search scenario or this search function, someone had written the function in the background, right? Now we are learning the Python language. Now we have to design our own searching scenario. Of course, we can reuse the function that is already available in this gedit word editor. But the bottom line is we want to do this in a programmatic way. We want to learn how to write a program to do this. This is not actually this searching is not actually using some program, right? This is just using certain program that has been written by certain developer. Now we are working towards being a developer, right? So the scenario is how to write a program to do this. Now in the next week, we will be discussing how to handle a file. How to handle a file such as this, how to read from it, how to write in a file. But just to give you a brief, for the time being, I'll be writing just a small program to read this file. What I'll be doing is, I'll be declaring this is a variable, and there is a function called open. Here, I need to provide the name of the file. Here, the name of the file, as you can see, it's feynman.txt. Note that this notebook, dictionary.ipynb, and this this feynman.txt file is in the same path. So that's why I just need to provide the path here. Okay. And we need to provide another thing. What we want to do on this file. As we want to read this file, we want to provide this mode, which is R, which is specifying that we will be reading from this file. Okay, and now if I want to, so this will be basically opening the file in the read mode. Don't get confused or don't get frustrated if this is not clear now. We will be discussing this in details in the next week after the completion of dictionary. Now, if we want to read the individual lines in the file, we can use this for loop with the membership operator. And this will be printing the individual lines in this Feynman.txt file. As you can see, Richard Feynman, and this, let's just overwrite the end with say space. As you can see, it is providing me the output exactly in the similar way as it is in this file, right? So this is the very brief demo on how to read a file. Now let's come back to our scenario. Write a program to find how many times a term basically is present in this file. Now we have read this file. Now we need to store it somewhere. So we can, again, like the scenario that we have discussed using strings and lists, we can apply both strings and lists here to do the search of words. Let's declare one empty string, say S. Then instead of printing, what we'll be doing is we'll be appending the content in this line into this S. If I execute this, as you can see, there is no immediate output. But now if I print S, we will be getting the entire file content stored in this S. Right? Now, if I want to do the search, what we can do, similar to the earlier scenario, if I want to search for the occurrence of Manhattan, and it will be providing me with the corresponding output. So basically Manhattan is present 4 times in this file. Now again, this can also be, as I have said, this can also be done using a list. But there is a problem. Again, I hope you can guess the problem. It is the linear search. So if I apply string as well as list, for both the cases, it will be linear search. And there is also another case, another a limitation of this program. That is, if I want to check for some, say, other, then it will be actually, this count will be again applying another linear search. So every time I am searching, it will be applying a linear search on the entire data, right? As you can see, the data is quite large. And every time applying a linear search will be time consuming. The latency will be quite high. So what can we do? So just to discuss on the ways of overcoming this situation, I'm giving you one exercise, a small exercise. Write a program to count the number of times each word in a document occurs using string or using lists. That is, I want you to write a program that will be, the output of the program will be basically 2 columns. The first column, or the first thing that will be provided as output, is basically a word, and then its occurrence. And for each word, it should be basically providing this output. So basically, say Richard, and then the number of times Richard is occurring in this file. Then Feynman, the number of times it is occurring in this file, and so on. I want you to do that using strings and list. Now coming back to the scenario, how to actually overcome this linear search problem. The problem, the solution is using a dictionary. Now what is a dictionary? Formally, a dictionary is an unordered collection of items, unordered like sets, where each item will be a pair of items or pair of things to be stored, and individual items will be separated by comma, and the items will be consisting of a key value pair, and the key and value will be separated by a colon, and all the items will be enclosed inside a second bracket. Note that dictionary will be unordered, it can be changed, and it will be indexed. So just to give you the idea about keys and values, the keys must be immutable, and based on these keys the search will be happening. Immutable means strings, integers, floats, tuples. This can be applied as, this can be used as a key, but we cannot have, say, a list as a key because lists are mutable, and the value can be anything except none. Okay. And another very important thing is key must be unique. That is, as we will be applying the search based on the keys, it should be unique. And the indexing, as I have said, the dictionary will be indexed. The indexing will be based on this key. So again, briefing, a dictionary will be a set of items. The individual items will be unordered, and the items will be basically a pair, a key value pair. The key and value will be separated by colon. The individual items will be separated by comma, and the entire thing will be enclosed inside a second bracket similar to sets. Now, as I have said, it is indexed. Now, we have already seen the indexing in lists, right? So if I provide, or if I make a list with, say, 6 items, say I1, I2, I3, and up to I6, this index values will be implicitly applied. That is, the first item will be indexed in the 0th position, the second item in the 1th position, and so on. And if I append, or if I add another item, new item in this list, it will be basically inserted in the last position or the position that we are specifying while appending this item, right? In comparison, for the dictionary, the implicitly giving of indexing number will not be there. Instead, we need to, or the programmers need to actually provide the index values as well. Like in case of a in case of a list, we are just providing the values, but in case of a dictionary, we'll be providing the keys as well. So here I am specifying, so it will be basically dictionary equals to this. I missed the equals to here. So it will be basically entering, it will be basically adding the values v1, v2, v3 up to v6 corresponding to the key k1, key k2, key k3, and so on. And while searching, what we can do, what we will be able to do is we can search based on the index. However, in case of list, again I am comparing. In case of list, we are actually not, the programmers are not handling the list, handling the index, right? Handling the list, handling the index in which a certain value is getting. In comparison, for dictionary, we are actually, or we the programmers are actually responsible for assigning the corresponding index value, indexing key as well. So this is the comparison between lists and dictionary. So just to give you some practical example, a physical dictionary or the dictionary we have at our home, is a very good example of an actual Python dictionary as well, where the keys are basically the words and the values are basically the definition of the word. Now note that we know that a word can have multiple meanings, such as Python. Python is a very good example of an ambiguous word. Python can be a snake, Python can be a programming language, and Python can be related to so many other things. Like Python can be the name of a fictional character as well. For those cases, as I have said, the key would be unique for dictionary in Python, but for those ambiguous cases, such as this, all these values will be under this key, under the same key. That is, Python in a Python dictionary, or an ambiguous term in a Python dictionary, cannot be having multiple keys. A second example would be a student information storage system. As I have discussed, I have started the discussion with lists, with the student information storage. There we are storing the name, the roll number, and certain marks. Now, here what is the unique thing, or what should be used as the key? Can someone say? For a student information storage system, if we apply the dictionary, what would be the key?
Set the roll number.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Because as we have said, a name cannot be used as basically a unique thing, or name cannot be having a unique value, because multiple students can have the same name. But as the roll number, it is definitely unique. Using the roll number as the key, and for value, we can store the name, the age, the course that the student had taken, everything as a value. Another example is a telephone directory, where the key would be, this is a tricky one. So the telephone directory, I guess you are not actually aware of this kind of a thing. Earlier, when by telephone, we always meant the landline phones. There at that time, in every states, I mean, including Calcutta. In Calcutta, there was this Calcutta telephones, the BSNL counterpart, or the BSNL extension of for the BSNL's extension for the Kolkata region. The Calcutta telephones used to provide this long, large book, thick book of telephone numbers of all the customers that they had given services to. So they were basically containing all the names and the corresponding telephone numbers. So in that case, the key was basically the names. But as we already discussed, names cannot be unique. So in that case, the address were also given together with the name, because it is expected that that a person or a couple of persons having the same name and same address will be existing. The possibility is not zero. The probability is not zero, but it is very less. I mean, it's very hard to find a home, find a house having multiple inhabitant having the same name. But for the time being, to keep the things not complicated, we can consider the name, the name of the person as a key, and the value will be corresponding phone number. But of course, we can have the name of the person together with the address as the key. Now let's come to the formal way of how to declare a dictionary in Python. A dictionary will be created by placing all the items inside the curly braces or second bracket, and the individual items will be separated by comma. And by this item, I will be meaning a key value pair, and this key value pair will be separated by a colon. For example, this is an empty dictionary. Now, it might be a little bit alarming for you because this is also, the second bracket is also used for declaring one set, right? For set, there was basically, the item was only one, just the value. There was no key in sets. So we will be discriminating sets and dictionary at the end of the discussion on dictionary. Just to give you a brief, dictionary where the key and value are the same, that is called set. As the key and value are same, we were giving only the single thing which is considered, which was considered as the key as well as the value. So again, sets are a special type of dictionary having the same key and value. Now this is an empty dictionary. Now, as you might have remembered, to declare an empty set, we need to provide, say, if we like say phone book, then we need to declare it as phone book equals to, then set, then just first bracket starting, first bracket ending. Then in that case, it would be an empty set. Just to show you that, so if I give, say, S equals to, so say D equals to, say, this, and if I print the type of D, it is ticked. And if I say S equals to set, then if I print the type, it will be basically set. But for other cases like list, as we have discussed, this is an empty list. But if we provide, all those sets are, so basically this is a set, so we can provide S equals to, say, 1, 2, 3. This is a set. Now if I declare this, as you can see, let's make it like this, but this will be printing set. Oops, sorry. This will be providing dict, and this is providing set. Because, as I have said, dictionary sets are a special type of dictionary where the keys and items are the same. So the bottom line is, to declare an empty dictionary, we'll be providing just the starting second bracket and ending bracket, similar to lists or tuples. For tuples, as we have, I hope you can remember, it is first bracket. Basically, we need to do something else as well. Okay, moving ahead. And now, if we want to declare a dictionary together with its items, that is key value pair, we need to provide them while declaring the dictionary. For example, I'm defining a dictionary called phone book having 3 items. The individual item is, first item is this key value pair. This is the key, this is the value. Note that the first item, the first entity before this colon will be considered as key, and the second entity or the entity in the right side of this colon will be considered as a value. So this is the key, this is the value, this is the key, this is the value, and so on. Now, dictionary can also have keys and value both having strings, both having the type string. And also, list can also be used as a value. But note that we cannot have a list as the key, because key should be immutable. And lists are here basically mutable. So that's why a key cannot, a list cannot be used as a key in dictionary. And we can have a tuple as well as a value in a dictionary. Now just look at them practically. So this is the scenario that we have already discussed. This is the dictionary with string as keys and integer as values. If I print this phone book, let's see how it is actually printing. As you can see, it's printing in this way. So it is basically, as you can see, there are comma. So this comma is specifying the separation of the items. The first item is this, second item is this, third item is this. Okay. And the individual item is basically the first thing, or the left or the entity in the left side of this colon is the key, the right side is basically the value, and so on. So this is again another dictionary, so where both key and value are strings. This is another scenario where the value is basically list, and this is again another scenario where the value is basically a tuple. Now, for all these cases, as you can see, I am using string as the key. Well, this is just for the sake of showing you the, as example. As I have said, all the immutable data types can be used as a key. For example, this. Here, I am declaring one dictionary where both key and value both are integers. What I am doing is, the key is basically an integer and value is basically its square. 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, 4, 16 and 525. This is perfectly fine dictionary. Okay. So as we started with dictionary, started with the dictionary, dictionaries are mutable. That is, we can add new items or change the existing value of an existing item as well. So let's look at that. So let's say we have again the same dictionary. Now, if we want to add another item, say we want to add the phone number of David. So what we can do is, we need to provide the name of the dictionary, then third bracket. Inside the third bracket, we need to provide basically the key that we want to associate the items with. So if I want to give the item or add the item David and this corresponding number, we need to provide, say, David as the first thing, and then equals to, what we will be doing is, we will be providing phone book. So let's just follow this. It will be easier to actually understand. And then some phone number, say 98702, some random phone numbers. That's it. Now, if I do this, in the existing phone book, it was containing this, right? There were 3 items. Now, if I apply this, and now if I print phone book, I hope you can guess what will be happening. It will be basically overwriting the entire existing dictionary, because I am basically here in the left hand side, this is basically a new phone book. Just to show you, if now I have this phone book containing Alice, Bob and Charlie. Now if I provide this ID, it will be something ending with 752. Now if I do this, now phone book is containing this. Now if I apply this ID function on this phone book, it will be something different. So that's why basically this statement is basically creating a new phone book altogether, and the existing items in the phone book or in the dictionary is gone. Now, if we actually, so let's say we want to, so let's again consider this, this phone book. So the phone book is containing Alice, Bob and Charlie and their corresponding phone numbers. Now, if I want to update one item that is not present or already present in the dictionary. Let's say I want to update the phone number of Bob. What we need to do is we need to provide something like this. So let's just show you this. Okay, this will actually be creating a new, basically a new entry here. This is basically erroneous. What should we be doing is Bob equals to say existing in in the existing dictionary, the phone number was like this. If I want to add say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0, if I do this, and now if I print the phone book, you can see earlier the phone book was containing Alice, her phone number, Bob, her phone number was 978 something or the other, Charlie 889 something or the other. As you can see, after applying this operation, it is basically updating the existing phone number that was there in the dictionary. So you can actually understand the scenario. As I started the discussion with comparison to the lists were also indexed. Here, as I have said, dictionary is also indexed and indexed by the key. Earlier, lists were indexed by some integers that were implicitly assigned by the programming language, in our case Python. But here I am basically providing the key, and as this key is present, the existing value is replaced. Now if I want to add, so if I want to add,
So, excuse me, sir.
yes,
So now the IDs of both the phone book will be same.
you'll be same. So now, I mean, the idea of this was, so basically, I mean, let's check the ID here. ID of phone book, it will be ending with 912. Now after adding, so here what is, so this statement and this statement is same. There is a difference. What is the difference? The key that I am providing here, it is existing. That's why it will be overwriting the existing value. But here the key is not actually existing. The dictionary is containing this with keys Alice, Bob, and Charlie. Now I am providing another value as key. If I execute this, it will be basically adding a new item with David and this phone number as key values, and it will be added there. And now if I check the ID of the phone book, as you can see, it will be remaining the same. So if I keep on adding new items or keep on, I mean, I can also delete items from the dictionary, but the ID will be remaining the same. But note that if I apply something like this, if I apply, say, as I have already shown you, say phone book equals to this, say, Ellen, and say her phone number, say integer, say 9745 something or the other, yeah, something like this. Then if I print the ID, it will be entirely different. As you can see, this is different because this phone book is a new phone book, a new dictionary. But earlier, when I was applying this is basically adding a new item in the existing phone book or in the existing dictionary. Got it? I hope so. So we'll be ending today's discussion with some properties of the key. So as I have said, duplicate keys are not allowed. So more than one value per key is basically not allowed. So if I provide something like this, so let's just, for the timing, let's just copy it. I think I have it somewhere. Yeah. So let's say I have this phone book 2. I'm specifying basically two items having the same key, phone numbers. If I do this, and if I print this, as you can see, only one item is there, and the item is the latest one. So what it is doing is, so this is equivalent to, this statement is equivalent to this statement, phone book, first initializing phone book with this, and then phone book to providing Bruce as the key and providing the corresponding phone number as the value. So this is equivalent. Okay, so these two are same. So basically, if I provide the same key, it will be basically considering the latest one. As you can see, the latest one has been considered. And another very important criteria is keys must be mutable, must be immutable. No mutable data types such as say lists cannot be applied. So if I, for example, show you, if I have a list with say mutable, have a list as a key in a dictionary, if I execute this, it will be providing me with an error. It is saying that unhashable type list. So basically list cannot be basically hashed. That's why the key should be hashed. As I have discussed, I think quite some time back, that dictionaries are something in between, I mean, in the behind data structure is actually working, which is called hash or hash table. Lists are not hashable. So that's why list or all the mutable data types cannot be used as keys. Okay. So we will be concluding today's discussion here. We'll be continuing the rest of the discussion on dictionary in the day after tomorrow, from Friday. Okay. Thanks a lot.